This week on Carlie's Couch, we discuss how to have better meetings because nobody likes sitting in terrible ones.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Carlie's Couch. I'm Lextopia.
CC Fierce / Carlie Carpio on Twitter.
And I was about to be Lex something else because the Nigerians did hack the hell out of me. They got me. You got me. But luckily, I just got right to it after waking up to 500 people telling me I was hacked. And it was like, okay. After a while, I was like, I get it, guys. But thanks to everybody for letting me know.
I was about to say, I was like, when I sent it, it was because someone texted me and said, yo, you got to tell Lexi to get her Instagram.
But that's what I don't understand. And then people were telling me, like, people are asking me if you're hacked. And it's like, I don't understand. Why is anybody asking anybody anything about me? Like, just.
I think they were trying to look out, but I don't know.
Why didn't they just text me or
they might not have you. The person I know didn't have your number.
Anyway, thanks, y'all. All 200,000 people. But yeah, you know, they got me out in Lagos.
That was a pretty quick turnaround for you to get your account back.
Yeah, I was kind of never. And so here's what was interesting is that once, so what I had to do because I couldn't get into it, they changed it to like their own numbers and they put on the 2-step verification to go to them. So, you know, I couldn't get around anything. And I watched one YouTube video that was the most recent I could find. And then I went through the steps to realize you could send in a selfie video, like through their technology, just like how when you set the the Face ID on your phone. So you like move side to side and it probably just scans your page to see if they can match your face. And I have my face all over my account. So, but the funny part is that after I sent it in or whatever, and they were like, okay, we'll review this and get back to you in 3 business days. And I was like, yeah, I ain't gonna get this shit back. So I was already like, actually, I was kind of excited. I was like, ooh, this would be cool if I get to, you know, just like actually start over. Not that you can't always just start over in your head, but I was like, ooh, you know, I could actually only have like 20 people and like put up whatever. And it just not feel as deep. And so it was kind of a cool reminder at the moment to like, you know, realize it's not that serious. But then they gave it back to me and the next day. But for my other 2 accounts, I was also locked out of those too. So I just got my lock one back today. And then they did get me from my Cap Social one too. But they got locked before they could do anything with them. Oh, good. But I can't get into it either. So I think that one's still under review. So we'll see. But anyway, speaking of Nigeria, this week's question from the couch, we asked our followers and our listeners, what places are you traveling to this summer?
Ooh, okay. So Paris, New Orleans, Ottawa, and South Dakota. That's pretty unique.
Interesting mix. That sounds like work trips.
Yeah.
Especially
the South Dakota.
Yeah, South Dakota, Ottawa, probably work trips. The next one's London and Rome. It's my first time in Europe, and I'm so excited. Aww. I know they'll probably have a good time. Those are good cities to visit, too. I think I did those exact, too, in a trip all together one time.
Yep. And then Spain, you're going to have a ball in Dubai.
Mm-hmm. I haven't been to Dubai yet.
Me neither. Soon come.
Another person said Dominican Republic, Zanzibar, Jamaica, and Germany. And I thought Zanzibar was a fake place, so interesting.
Did you? Oh, wow. Yeah, they're on my list. That's cool.
What is that? Where is it?
Africa.
But where is it?
I think it's on the southern part in my head because it's like when I think about places.
Is it that the city name?
I don't think so. I think it's a country, but like I'm like, let me look while we talk about it. I know it's a real place.
Okay, well, we'll look it up.
Read the next one while I look up.
The next one said, we just got back from Hawaii and Oklahoma, and our last one for the summer, but the summer hasn't started yet. Our last one for the summer will be Costa Rica, so that's cute. Somebody else said Costa Rica as well. Another person said Utah and Miami. That's random. Another one said Washington, D.C. with the kiddies and Thailand in November. That'll be fun.
They're excited about that. Okay, so Zanzibar is a Tanzanian archipelago off the coast of East Africa.
Okay.
So that's what I was like, in my head, I was like, I put it with Tanzania and all of the safaris.
Okay, in Tanzania. There we go. And actually, yes, because one of my friends is, she's has Tanzanian family and she was trying to get us to come for New Year's and that fell through, but not Zanzibar necessarily. Somebody's going to Baltimore.
I have not been there.
Not missing anything.
Vermont, haven't been there. Have you been to Vermont?
I've been through it for sure because I've been in like Connecticut and Massachusetts and stuff.
Los Angeles, Austin, San Diego, New York.
Another person said they're going to Australia, which sounds cool.
Amsterdam, Colorado. Look, yeah.
Right. One person said wherever I want to go, name the location. I know that's right. So I will be DMing you back.
Okay. And then this last one said Cancun and Las Vegas. And that they're also available to help us find something at no extra cost with Majestic Memories and Travel with Mo.
Okay, I know that's right.
Shout out being the only person to plug yourself.
So she's a travel, what do they call it?
News to me, agent.
Travel agent, maybe?
News to me. Shout
Majestic
out to Mo.
Memories and Travel with Mo. Unless she just saying she gonna find
No,
some
she
prices.
linked it.
Oh.
She linked, that's what I'm saying. She linked the page.
Okay. Well, that's nice. What do you got planned for the summer?
So far I have Turks. That's it so far.
Okay.
But I have bigger plans. But yes, Turks
better than
sure.
me. You said bigger plans.
No, I said I'm gonna have like more like better plans. Further.
Okay, yeah, I don't have anything planned for the summer right now. So, I've done the most traveling up to this point this year. I've been to a few countries, but I don't know. So we'll see. I kind of think that I'm saying this, but I kind of want to just chill out and like super save and like be just real chill the rest of this year. But also, I know how I am. I think I'm gonna live out of the country for September, October is what I'm kind of thinking about.
That's a great time to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But thank y'all for sharing. We always appreciate the questions from the couch. And also shout out to y'all because I posted that a couple hours ago and y'all turned up.
That's an easy one to answer.
Yep. Okay, so today's topic, I'm gonna do Lexi Hand's meetings. I sat through a really terrible meeting. I want to say like a month and a half ago, and this was on my heart.
Right, that's a bad meeting if it's on your heart like that.
But I realized that having good meetings is a skill, and it's something that people take for granted, and something you can also get better at. And I feel like we're the new adults or whatever they expect us to be out here in these streets, and so even for the older people, like it's a skill. So it's actually something you can hone and do better. Because I swear, if you spend 3 hours just talking at somebody, it's not a good meeting.
Yeah, so what made the meeting so bad?
It was a 3-hour meeting, which the time it had to be for the amount of material. So I understand the time commitment. But
so they said it was a 3-hour meeting.
Yeah, okay. They did for sure. But then it was just being talked at. And the slides had a bunch of words on them. And, it was just a lot of things that we're going to discuss on ways to make it better. But then I thought about it and I was like, with as many professional developments and trainings and things that I do and that I know you do and how you help teams and stuff, like why not help people have better meetings?
Yeah. So we'll keep this one brief and follow our agenda for the episode. Okay, how do we make meetings more efficient? Carlie and I talked about it, and really it's like the first thing you really can ask yourself is, does this even need to be a meeting in the first place? Because most do not. Most times you may have something to convey, and it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has to stop what they're doing, come together, do all the small talk, and go through an agenda and talk about it.
Because I feel like meetings were just a commonplace, and they're becoming outdated. So when I worked in construction, we would have meetings, and it used to drive me insane. Because if we just had the one meeting and everybody knew what they needed to do, we would stop wasting everybody's time. Like if you look around the room, and we're having job site-wide meetings, which are necessary for safety and things like that. But anything outside of that, like you wasting time and money.
Why were they having the meetings about meetings? Was there just no other way to communicate with everybody?
No, people have emails. People have there's pamphlets. There's a million. We could be innovative. It could be anything, but we had them every day or whatever the thing was, every week at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And it's like, guys, with all the love in the world, like this doesn't have to be like that.
Okay. So I agree with you. And so some questions you can ask to see, does this even need to be a meeting would be, A, are you bringing people together to onboard or offboard them or to talk about milestones in a project? So if you're getting somebody started with a group, let's say, or they're starting with working with you or on a project, then I think that it is helpful to meet, because then you're making sure you're on the same page to get started so that they can go on about their way and do whatever needs to be done.
I think another one is whenever team input is needed. So if you're making decisions or if there are issues or opportunities and you want everybody's opinion or thoughts on something, like I think that there's a lot of creative energy that can be had whenever you put a lot of people in the room and are not wasting their time. So I think that it could be important if you're looking to maximize one of those two things.
But also with that, I'll say there's a ceiling to where when you have too many people in a meeting, then it's not creative. Like when it becomes like a small group versus like a classroom when now nobody feels like they need to say anything. So I would say small groups for the creativity part are good for meetings. And then lastly, if you need to make decisions that are maybe relevant to multiple people, oh, look, I was reading the rest of what she said. I was like, wait, what?
I was thinking through my thoughts, typing it.
If you're meeting with a group and you need to make decisions, then oftentimes you do need to have a meeting so that you can either hear different sides and or so you can present like what we are making a decision about, so that everybody feels like they have equal opportunity to understand, and make sure that the communication is super clear. Then in those cases, yes, I would say you can have a meeting.
Yeah, and I'll add the last one that's not on here, but I just thought about if like you have a board for a nonprofit organization or things like that, you're actually required to have meetings, but it's for updates, it's for votes, it's for things like that. Think about for all y'all Greek people back to chapter meetings whenever you had to vote on stuff. Like, I think those are necessary and have a place.
That's a good point. In a space where it has a structure and everybody needs to give some type of feedback, then cool, let's meet. Now, the next question then is, can we do this on a phone call? Can we do this online? Does it need to be Zoom? Can we, like, what do we need to do? Or does it need to be in person? Now, this wouldn't really be a question too much, honestly, before 2020. And I think that because more people had a chance and opportunity to have meetings via Zoom and other platforms, now it feels like, man, that's actually kind of a waste of time for me to get up, go to another room, maybe drive across town, whatever it may be, for a particular meeting. So what are your thoughts on being able to tell how you should hold out this meeting?
So I think a lot more meetings than society would like us to believe could actually just be on the phone or on Zoom, even with cameras off, and still be efficient and okay. But I do think that there is a special opportunity and moment in having people together. And so I would say in person, like, if you are working on something creative, because then people feel more there. Like, if it's possible, if everybody lives in LA, like, why not have them all come in, or the few of them or whoever come in, so they can ideate on something and brainstorm and get the creative juices flowing. Or if it's like the first time for the whole board to meet, so then they can actually make introductions and try to build rapport with people. I think that there's a lot of opportunity in that. Okay.
And then I'll ask you a follow-up to that. What is the order in which you are paying attention to I'm not probably paying less attention? If you had to order an in-person meeting online with your camera off, so let's say you can have your camera off on a Zoom, or on a phone meeting with multiple people on it, which one are you paying the most attention in?
I mean, it actually depends on how I'm feeling that day, because I could absolutely not be paying attention in an in-person meeting, and I have absolutely not paid attention in in-person meetings before. But I'm more likely to pay attention if it's a good meeting, which we'll get into tips later. Probably, in my head, I want to say, no, it actually just depends on how I'm feeling. Okay, because I actually would say I think I would pay the most attention on the phone, and then maybe online, and then maybe in person. But the in-person and online could be changed, just because when there's no other things to see or do, then I'm actually probably paying attention, because I'm not really a person who will like have a phone call and do other things. I can't really do too much at once, but on the computer I can. So that's just random that I was thinking, like, it still could be a good meeting. Do you think that it is possible to build rapport and really good relationships with teams if they don't ever meet in person? Because I feel like that's a lot of the draw to push people back into the office, because they're saying teams don't work as well. And I know a lot of your staff like are, online, like primarily. And so what are your thoughts around that? Yeah. And my favorite worker, teammate, shout out Carl Blevins. I've never met him. But I see him like every other day. I might talk to him every day. It's funny because he's met some of the clients and been at stuff that I couldn't go to, and I've never even met him. So I think absolutely you can. I think that were we able to be in person, we could, maybe certain things can, communications or the way you talk to each other, whatever, might progress even faster, but I don't think it was necessary. Okay. I appreciate that. Okay, so if you do decide, okay, this needs to be a meeting, the next step is to figure out what is the objective of said meeting. Yeah. Like, what are we trying to do? Because that's the worst, I think. Like, I've been in meetings where it's like, it just feels like, okay, every Tuesday we have a meeting,
but there's no real point, and it's just like, or the ones where everybody just goes around and says something, and it's like, that was kind of pointless. So what is the objective to your meeting? Whether it be to provide updates, cool. Whether it be to hear people's reports on XYZ. Your objective of a meeting might be to see where we have synergies on this project, you know, or the objective of your meeting might be to sell you something. But whatever it is, try to keep that objective very clear, and make sure your points of your agenda reflect that actual objective.
Yep. And so Lexi has a point on here. You should never go into a meeting without an agenda.
I think, okay, so, and this is not something I've always believed and or done, but I think it's so true that if you have an agenda, your meeting's always going to be better. Well, maybe I should say it like that. When, let's see, 2000, maybe 17 or so, up to like 2017, 18, even in our work meetings with clients or updates or whatever, they didn't all have agendas, right? Sometimes we just hop on and just talk. And from a colleague and doing some work with them with a project, I recognized how seriously they drafted up their agendas and how it was a format. So it wasn't even like, you know, different every time. It's the same format. It lists everything that's important. At the top, it lists like some go-to links that you might need to go to if you need more background information. It was just so thorough. And I realized, like, by not having an agenda, what I was losing out on, I was losing a little bit of control with, especially if it's already like a client, right? And you're kind of losing a little bit of control, and it's just like, all right, we're just here. Two, an agenda for everybody looks more official. Like I've had people be like, wow, thanks for having this agenda. Or like, oh, this looks really good. Because they not really prepped for what's about to happen now. And, you know, I've made the agenda so I can kind of control where this meeting is going. And also three, for recording's sake, like an agenda is so good because after the meeting, right, I'm always usually kind of brain dead. Like, all right, we've talked for an hour, but we have notes in our agenda. The agenda's there. So now I can go back and see like, okay, what do I need to do my next steps? You know, like I don't have to do things immediately and forget everything after the meeting. But it helps me to note that, okay, next time we talk, what's the update on these things? And it helps you to track them as you go. Now, I've also seen some agendas that are super crazy long and it's doing too much. And it's like, all right, you definitely have to recognize how much you can get done in the time and break it down and focus on something if you need to. But having an agenda, I think, is a game changer.
I think so, too. I think it also just helps people understand how you're going to fill the time. And if they're there for a reason, then they kind of like, oh, I know for real, I'm going to be speaking right here. So let me, do that. But whenever you're thinking about these agendas, like, how do you create one? Like, what is your thought process?
So what we do with our agendas is throw our, company logo in the header. Underneath it, it'll be like, what is this thing? So whether it's XYZ's client session, put the time, the date. And then at the very top, the first thing we do is we list out some resources. If it's like an ongoing thing, right? So some resources they can always just click to if they need to, but we don't talk about that in the meeting. That's just kind of there. We'll start out with like reporting. So if we need to report back numbers to you, analytics, then I might go into, okay, here are the different breakdowns of project types going on, things going on. So let's say in my case, it might be your philanthropy project. There's a few different things going on with that. Then it might be, okay, you have a music project. There's a few things going on with that. Back when we worked with a mental health organization, similarly, it'd be like, okay, we have this initiative. Here's the things that are going on there. Here's another upcoming event. Here's the things going on there, right? So separating it by key initiatives. And then the points of like, what do you need to either report to them? So we also would link things. So we'd be like, here's the strategy document here and put the link in it. So as that way, it's like everybody who has the agenda can always just click to see what's what as well. And then any questions that we need to get information from, having those questions in there. So basically just by kind of categories.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So that's for client meetings, and I think that works really well. And also for the continuation of things. A lot of my meetings aren't like that, but I still like to do agendas when I'm presenting things just so they can see what's going on. And it's kind of the same idea always. And I try my best to like give them like times, like, this will take about 5 minutes. Like,
oh yeah, I don't do that.
Well, see, but that's like shout out to Dr. Charlie Kemp was on here about talking about education. So she be on me.
Yeah,
Dr.
when you're
Charlie.
like presenting, that's good to keep you on time.
So they can kind of figure out. Yeah, and so I can also it shows I put a lot of forethought into how long things are going to take. But when I think about like board meetings or pitches or professional developments, it's kind of the same format in the sense of like, what are the overarching items that we need to discuss? What are the exercises? Who needs to talk? And then I think at the end, it's always good to put a space for questions or further discussion. And then also to maybe have a parking lot for things that won't be discussed at this meeting, but that we do need to like touch back on.
Yeah, and at the top of ours is where we have our next steps. So what we'll do is I'll take notes, or somebody else on the team might take notes during the meeting. But then at the end of the meeting, we kind of scour through and then be like, all right, we said they were doing this, we're doing that. So that way you always have that there as well.
So once you have your agenda, I think it's important, when possible, to send to the the people who are going to be participating in the meeting so they can know what y'all are meeting about and prepare their things if they need to.
Absolutely. All right, let's go through some other kind of quick tips that are helpful.
Quick and dirty.
All right. HR. Respect people's time. 100%. And that's something people always say when it gets towards the end of the meeting time, and people are like, well, I want to respect everybody's time. Is everybody good on time? And every time people say that, it's like, all right, like, well, I'm cool. But also that is respectful. And then a lot of times people be like, yeah, I have to be out at this time. So try not to just ramble on and on.
Man, I remember when I was in any college class, if professors kept going, I'm like, Lord Jesus, I feel so disrespected right now. So do your best to very much respect people's time. I would also say, like, you shouldn't be talking the entire meeting. There should be a lot of space for discussion, feedback, questions. Like, if you notice you're talking the whole time, like, you should change that and quickly.
Absolutely. And when there is somebody speaking, be sure to listen to them. Meetings get real inefficient when folks are not listening and then they ask a question and you already answered it, or things go back and forth. And again, that's not respectful of everybody's time as well.
This, I'm going to say universal learning. So when you're thinking about a meeting, sometimes it's good to have visuals because people can be visual learners. Sometimes it's good to talk because people can be auditory. And so just thinking that we all have different learning styles or different ways we buy into things, and like, how can you make presentations feel more inclusive for people who have different learning styles than you? How can you try to include everyone? Like, what does this look like to actually be a little bit more interactive as opposed to just very one note and 1D, and really thinking about what that could look like in your field, and that could set you apart and get more participation from other people.
That's really where like a lot of the skill comes in too, and being a good presenter and storyteller. Also be sure that you record the meeting and or are taking notes. I usually try to do both because I rarely go back to listen to a recording. But if it's something where we've had a meeting and I know it's recorded and then weeks later I need to go back to develop out something, at least I have that there.
And Lord Jesus, please know when to end the meeting and to let, like,
I'm so bad at that. I be talking and talking. I don't know why. It's like I don't want to let people go at the end, but whatever. But
yeah, just figure out how to have a wrap up and then get people on their way, because they can't linger. And that's fine if they want to stay and linger. But for people who might have other stuff, it could feel pressure.
Oh, you can't linger when I be like, click, end
exactly.
meeting.
Like, we out of here.
In real life, that's another con of real life meetings. All the extra talking at the beginning and ending is like, we're done. Okay, make sure before the meeting is completed that everybody is clear on next steps. I think that's super important. There's a lot of meetings where you can be in it and you feel like, okay, they didn't really tell me to do anything, and or it wasn't really clear. And so the next time we meet, it's like nothing has been done. But there should be very clear next steps, and send a recap to everybody if you can, to also have that like written down for everybody in an email. Like, all right, these are the things we are expecting to happen.
It was so funny. I was recording secretary my first year in Delta and taking meeting minutes. For those who don't know, that's what the recording secretary does. And then I started doing it on my internships in construction. So I'm really good at taking meetings, taking minutes for meetings. And if you are doing that, you don't actually need to write every single thing down. Most of the important things and things that might need to be a CYA or cover your ass later on, definitely write those things down. Yeah,
the crazy thing about that too, the same colleague that I learned agendas from, in meetings, like when they took notes, they literally were writing every little thing. Like, but they were good at doing it. But I was like, it's not that deep though. Like, it's also being recorded. So just answer the questions or get keywords and things that you need.
Yeah, and so if you are the person who's doing it, you don't have to write down everything that they say. I learned that through all of this practice that I've had. But lastly, we're going to end it with any random or unique tips that you do on meetings or things that you include that might be unconventional or different that could be helpful for anybody trying to, sharpen this skill?
I don't think so. I don't think there's anything that I would say is like, oh, this is my special thing. Outside of like, I kind of roast people a little bit, but I don't.
That's your personality, though.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so not for me. What about for you?
Okay, so I talked to my homegirl, Stacey Ann, who will be on the podcast, but she runs plenty of meetings all over. And I asked her, and she said she makes sure to check in with people and to see how they're doing and not just like, hey, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And the reasoning is because she was saying that, like, if their partner just asked for a divorce and all this stuff is happening, maybe now is not the best time for me to ask you for feedback on this fiscal thing. Like, maybe this is something I can then do for myself. She also has a small team.
Oh, you're talking about like mentally how people are doing.
Yeah,
I thought you meant like how you doing like with the what we're talking about.
But it's important to like check in with folks. But she literally checks in with people and keep like her team is very small, and so she's able to be more personal with them. But like if she's like, or if it's something that I thought we were gonna need a decision on, but then they're having a terrible day, maybe I just make the decision and that's okay for today. But she said that that's really important and that's been a game changer in helping her efficiency. So shout out, good. Yeah. So shout out to Stacey Ann. I always like to check in with people. I like to start meetings with mindfulness. I might be that annoying person, but it's so important because we are all coming from different spaces, and you might have been driving in traffic and someone else is tired and I'm nervous about this thing I'm presenting. And so I feel like just a quick check-in, even if it's a big inhale, big exhale. Okay, let's do this. Or just think of something that you're grateful for. I feel like that really helps us ground. And then we're all in the same space. And every time I do it, people look at me crazy, but then they always tell me that they enjoy it. And then the last thing is just a question I want to throw in here. But how do you feel about icebreakers in meetings?
No. I do not care. If I want to talk to y'all and get to know y'all, I'll get to know y'all.
And I think that's very, I hate when they feel forced. So like in client meetings, continuing client meetings, you probably don't need those. But if you're doing a conference, you probably do, because these are people that they're going to be talking to and getting vulnerable and learning and growing with throughout the day. And so think about your audience before you start throwing in things just to throw them in there. Although sometimes, if it's who you are and it's your personality, it can be fun. But just some stuff to keep in mind.
Okay. All right. So for all of you all, hopefully you will be having good meetings this week. If you know somebody who's a business owner, or if you want to send this to your boss anonymously or to somebody who's terrible at your job, hopefully they won't hear this part and know that that's why you sent it to them. But please share the episode, and we hope you have a great week.
Peace.